Welcome to the True Alien Podcast. Get ready, folks, because today's paranormal probe is diving into a really, really bizarre tale.
Yeah, we're cracking open some declassified government files today, the kind of stories, maybe someone hoped would just stay buried.
Okay, I'm hooked. What's the mission?
Well, we've got this newly surfaced CIA document. It details an alleged close encounter. Soviet soldiers and a UFO.
Ah, the classic Cold War angle, little green men.
Forget little green man. This one involves, well, potential petrification.
It's just
Seriously. And, of course, all that Cold War paranoia hanging over everything.
petrification. Okay, you have my full attention. So we're looking at what the doc says, what it doesn't say.
Exactly. And maybe the biggest question, why does this document even exist? Why did the CIA bother with it?
Right, a declassified CIA summary of something super weird. That alone is interesting. But, okay, before we get carried away with alien death rays, what's the actual source behind this CIA report?
Okay, so this is key. The CIA wasn't, there. They didn't investigate this themselves, not as far as this document shows anyway.
So what is it then?
It's basically a summary of articles that were published in a Canadian newspaper and a Ukrainian one.
Ah, okay, so right off the bat, it's secondhand. Or even third-hand.
Pretty much. The information's already passed through, at least a couple of layers before it even gets to the CIA analyst writing the summary.
So the CIA's role was just documenting. Like, hey, look what the papers are saying over there.
That seems to be it, yeah.
Yeah.
The document itself is described as, well, bureaucratic. Very matter of fact, just source A reports, source B alleges event C happened, something like that.
Yeah, we checked this out and...
Nope, no indication they tried to verify any of it. It's just noted. And that's crucial to remember when we talk about what allegedly happened.
Okay, so keeping that massive grain of salt in mind, what did these foreign papers claim happened to these poor Soviet soldiers?
All right, so according to these accounts, Soviet soldiers stumbled upon a landed UFO. Spherical, apparently.
Landed? Okay.
And then, well, they reportedly opened fire on it.
Wait, what? They shot at the UFO? Seriously? Wouldn't you, I don't know, call someone first? Observe.
You'd think, wouldn't you? Maybe Cold War jitters. Or maybe standard procedure was different then. Who knows? The report doesn't really say why they shot.
Okay, rule number one, maybe don't shoot the glowing alien sphere. But they did. So how did the UFO respond?
This is where it gets truly bizarre. The claim is the UFO retaliated.
How? Lasers? Abductions?
Nope. It allegedly turned the soldiers into pillars.
Pillars, like pillars of salt, stone. What?
Super vague details. Some accounts sort of hint at stone, others maybe glass. It's really fuzzy. The main point was this instant, total transformation.
Wow.
Yeah. And apparently only a couple of the soldiers managed to survive whatever this was. The rest, statues.
Turned into pillars. That's definitely a new one on me. So, okay, the CIA sees the story in foreign papers. It sounds completely nuts. Why even file it? What's the angle for them?
Well, you got to think about the Cold War context, right? The CIA was basically vacuuming up any information coming out of the Soviet Union. Anything and everything.
Even stuff that sounds like a fairy tale.
Could be. Maybe they were looking for hints of, weird Soviet tech. Some new weapon they might misinterpret as alien.
Or maybe they thought it was Soviet disinformation, planting a crazy story.
That's definitely another possibility. Or maybe just tracking propaganda, seeing what narratives were floating around. Filing it doesn't mean they believed it, just that they noted it. It shows how wide their net was.
So it could be anything from a tiny, what if, concerned about some unknown threat, alien or Russian tech, to just, background noise they logged.
Exactly that. The fact they kept this file, even unverified, raises that core question. What was the purpose? Genuine, if remote, concern. Or just intel bureaucracy at work. Understanding the information landscape.
Which brings us to the big so what for this whole paranormal probe. Why should you, listening right now, care about this weird secondhand story in an old CIA file?
I think what's really important here is how layered this information is. You've got the original event, if it even happened, then maybe a witness, then a reporter, then a Ukrainian paper, then a Canadian paper, then a CIA analyst summarizing it, and then it gets declassified for us.
That's like a crazy game of telephone, paranormal telephone.
Exactly. And at every single step, there's a huge potential for distortion, for exaggeration, maybe even just making stuff up. It's a perfect example of why you have to be so careful with extraordinary claims, especially old ones, filtered through so many sources.
So lesson one. Don't trust stories that have been passed around like a hot potato. And maybe lesson two.
Lesson two. Probably learned the hard way by those soldiers, allegedly. Maybe don't shoot first and ask questions later when dealing with glowing space orbs.
Solid advice. Got any alien life hacks for us,
Yep.
just in case, if we find ourselves facing a mysterious sphere?
Okay, alien life hack number 1. Diplomacy first. Maybe offer something universally understood. A good bottle of vodka, perhaps.
Right.
Couldn't hurt, right? Might improve interspecies relations.
Okay, lead with vodka. Got it. What else?
Hack number 2. And this was maybe more critical. If your buddies suddenly start looking like Stonehenge, run. Seriously, don't stop to analyze, don't try to help. Just strategic relocation. Fast. Sudden petrification is a big red flag saying, leave now.
Run away screaming. Got it. Wise words. All right, let's hit our cosmic cheat sheet for this probe. What are the key takeaways, the buzzwords?
Okay, first up, declassified doc dump. That's when governments release piles of old files. You find gems like this mixed in with, actual intel.
And this story itself.
Definitely a hearsay hot potato. Passed along so many times, who knows what the original story even was, making it super hard to check.
And the fate of the soldiers. Need a catchy if dark term for that.
How about Soviet statute? Captures the alleged transformation. And the weapon, let's call it the petrification possibility because, it's totally unproven.
Soviet statute by a petrification possibility. Love it. And the CIA's role.
Yeah, the real head-scratcher is the CIA filing what's basically a paranormal tabloid story.
Yeah.
It just shows you the sheer weirdness they sometimes collected, maybe just in case.
Definitely highlights how messy information can be, especially filtered through languages, agencies, decades.
Okay, what about eyewitnesses? The eyewitness drama, or maybe lack thereof.
Yeah, that's a huge point here. There's zero, zilch, nada direct eyewitness testimony in this record. Not from the soldiers, not from anyone the CIA talked to directly.
We're just reading about reports.
Exactly, and you can just imagine, right? The original Ukrainian article might have been totally sensationalized to sell papers. Drama, aliens, zap.
Yeah.
The Canadian reprint, maybe a bit calmer, but still based on that same possibly hyped up source.
We're so far removed from any potential primary source.
Miles away, which makes the whole thing incredibly shaky.
It's funny to think how this would play out today online.
Oh, totally instant flame war, right? You'd have forums exploding, believers shouting proof, skeptics yelling hearsay, memes everywhere within hours, the whole modern internet reaction machine. Definitely different from a quiet file summary back then. Okay, this whole thing feels like prime brain candy and WTF UFO trivia. What weird little nuggets can we pull out?
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What else is in the CIA's filing cabinets? Do they have a folder labeled like weird stuff we found in foreign papers? What was the actual criteria?
And who wrote the original articles? Were they known for reliable stuff or more? Imaginative reporting.
We don't know. Their credibility, their motives, total unknowns, and the timing, too. When did the CIA summarize this? Was it during a super tense Cold War moment where any weird rumor felt potentially significant?
It just layers on the questions, and this inevitably connects to the bigger picture, the whole conspiracy landscape, right?
Absolutely. A story like this is perfect fodder for disinformation theories. Was it planted? By who? The Soviets to look scary or advanced? The U.S. to make the Soviets look crazy or to cover something else up?
Or just a wild story that serves a purpose, like distracting from maybe more credible UAP reports that are less flashy.
Exactly. Sensational stories grab headlines. Meanwhile, maybe more mundane, but harder to explain, sightings get ignored.
And it feeds that narrative of aliens might be hostile, which, can be pretty convenient if you want to justify military budgets or secrecy.
Definitely. And here's a cynical thought.
Yeah.
Maybe they declassify stuff like this on purpose sometimes, to deliberately confuse the issue, throw some garbage into the UFO research field to make it harder to find anything real.
Ooh, that's devious. All right, this story deserves some good old-fashioned mic drop moments. Hit us with some snark.
Okay, how about, so the CIA's job included documenting potential alien-induced garden gnome incidents involving Soviet soldiers. Good to know.
Nice.
Or proof the Cold War wasn't just about nukes, it was also apparently about avoiding interstellar petrification rays.
One more.
Memo to future soldiers. If you encounter a UFO, maybe try offering it borscht instead of bullets.
Perfect. Okay, let's talk witness testimonies again, just to be clear on how thin this is.
Right. As we said, no direct soldier accounts here. The testimony is basically unnamed newspaper authors, potentially decades ago. And then, some likely long-retired CIA analyst writing a dry summary.
Can you paraphrase what that bureaucratic summary might have sounded like?
Probably something incredibly dull like, item. Foreign press alleges encounter between Soviet military unit and unidentified object. Outcome reported as anomalous transformation of personnel into inanimate columnar structures. Source reliability undetermined. Recommend file for potential future correlation.
Zero emotion, maximum bureaucracy. So, stripping away all the weirdness, what are the actual uncovered facts here? What do we know for sure?
The CIA wrote a document summarizing these specific claims from those Canadian-Ukrainian papers. Fact, that document was eventually declassified and released.
And what's not fact?
The alien attack itself, totally unverified. The real uncovered fact isn't about aliens, it's about intelligence agencies. They collect mountains of information, plausible or not, just because information is their business.
It feels like a weird historical jigsaw puzzle. Any trivia and Easter eggs we can look for? Connections?
Well, you could dig into whether there were other strange reports from that specific area of Ukraine around the same time. Any local folklore about people turning to stone, that kind of thing.
And pop culture.
Oh, yeah, totally. Cold War sci-fi vibes. Aliens getting mixed up in human conflicts like Command and Conquer. Red alert, but with petrification instead of Tesla coils.
Maybe. And does this fit with other Soviet-era UFO stories? Are there patterns, or is this just a complete outlier?
Good questions. So what's the legacy of a story like this? How does the Kremlin close encounter echo today?
Well, for people already convinced there's an alien cover-up or hostile aliens, this kind of document is like catnip, right? Even though it's flimsy. See? The CIA knew.
And for skeptics.
For skeptics, it's Exhibit A for why you shouldn't trust sensational UFO stories based on hearsay. It becomes a way to dismiss the whole field.
So it fuels both sides, pretty much. And the meta-mystery remains. Why keep this specific, weird, unverified story? Why file it? Why release it? What was the perceived value?
Which leads us perfectly to alternate takes and theories. Besides aliens zapping soldiers or it being a total hoax, what else could possibly explain this?
Okay, let's brainstorm. Plausible-ish end. Complete fabrication, maybe propaganda. Misidentified conventional explosion or weapon test that got wildly misinterpreted and rumors spiraled. Mass hysteria among soldiers under stress.
Okay, the more grounded stuff.
Yeah.
Now the wilder end.
Actual alien encounter, just badly reported. Some kind of experimental Soviet weapon test gone wrong with bizarre side effects they blamed on aliens. Interdimensional bleed through, psychic warfare experiment fallout, or, maybe actual Gorgons defected to the Soviet Union.
Okay, Gorgons might be pushing it. Maybe. So listener, what do you think? What's your take on this bizarre Cold War relic? Was it a genuine, if terribly documented, alien smackdown? Clever propaganda from Moscow or Washington? Or just proof that government filing cabinets contain some seriously weird stuff?
Yeah, this paranormal probe into the Kremlin close encounter definitely leaves us, like a lot of these deep dives, scratching our heads more than having solid answers. Which is kind of the point sometimes, isn't it?
It is. And here's something to chew on. In this world of secrets, declassified files, and narratives constantly shifting, what other absolutely unbelievable stories are just sitting there waiting in some archive ready to blow our minds or just confuse us even more?
Keep that mind open, but keep your skeptic hat handy too. And join us next time on the True Alien Podcast for another plunge into the unknown. And please, whatever you do, try not to get petrified out there.